I got it. Take this off the screen. Okay. So if you're just joining in, I just to, a little bit about Shoebox. We are all about creating community and also helping artists create opportunities, whatever that looks like for artists. So, whether it is, and finding your own path, and that could be gallery representation if that's what you're looking for. It could be, creating your own community, creating, putting an exhibition together, selling your art online, or, showing at art festivals. There's so many different, ways you can go. And so putting together an exhibition proposal for a show, is a huge part of the goals that we hear artists talking about. One of those goals is a solo show in a museum, or an institution. I mean, we do goal workshops with our artists, and that is probably the most common goal, is having a solo show. And so the question becomes, how do you get a solo show? And of course, there's many different ways to get solo shows, but the biggest thing you could do is create your own opportunity and apply for solo shows yourself. If you have gallery representation, once you get in with the gallery, you'll probably have a group show with the gallery. And then depending on if you sell or not, the gallery will ask, invite you to have a solo show. That may not happen for a few years. But, you can have a solo show in a museum or in an institution or an organization. And I'm just going to ask, does everybody mind muting yourselves just so we don't hear anything in the background? Or, and I'll, there's more coming up. If you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and put them in chat. Shelly is going to be keeping an eye on that. And and we'll talk more about chat in a second. But let's see. Yes. So, having a solo show, sending proposals out for solo shows, asking for solo shows is, is something that artists, don't know how to do and need help with. And and don't even know that they could do it, don't even know that they could apply or send a proposal for a show. And so, from our experience and, of course, Perceive Me, I sent out a different type of proposal to 6 or 7 different spaces because I know them, and I got the shows. And so, I hear stories all the time that, sending out a successful proposal definitely helps. So, we'll talk more about that. I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts yet, but let me see. I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. And to start off, here's just a little bit of information, the basics for me and Shelly. You'll get a PDF of this that's linkable, so you can click on that. But because, like I said, I'm all about community, go ahead and introduce yourself in chat. Add your website, social media information, and Medium into the chat on Zoom. And at the end of the workshop, you can save chat. So you don't have to copy and paste everything, but you can save the chat so it's on your computer, and then you could go back and copy and paste and find everybody on social media. But we do this because, we're always talking about building our followings on social media and connecting with people. This is the perfect way to do it. There's, 27, 29 of us here. So it's like, you should, have 29 new followers on your social media, presumably. So keep that in mind. So let's see. I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything off the bat. Like I said, if you're just coming in, this is being recorded, and at the end of this, I will send you a link that is available for 10 days on Zoom. So you'll just be able to click on the link and watch the video. And we'll also send you a PDF of this PowerPoint. So that way you'll have that too. All right, and if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in chat, or we'll have a question and answer at the end also. So, keep that in mind too. So, like I was talking about, exhibition proposals, are a great way to get a show, whether it is a solo show or a group show. And, I feel like there's so much I want to say and we only have 2 hours. So, but you know, even as far as like putting together a group show is a great way to like build your audience by inviting your friends to, you know, or if you have friends that, you know, you want to show with, and find a space and submit a proposal for that. You know, you can build your audience by, you know, using your friends' audiences, and, you know, but that's a whole other thing that we can get into. And then, like I said, a solo show is great because you can, you know, put together, you know, a body of work, you know, work based around a theme, and we'll talk about that a little more too. And again, submit it to different places. So the elements, you know, the basic elements of an exhibition proposal include like the idea and concept for the show, you know, a cover letter or letter of intent, the exhibition statement or proposal itself. Then you want to include, you know, your basics like the artist statement, bio, your CV and resume, and also images of your artwork and or installation photos. And we're going to go over each of these separately, so that way you have, you know, an idea. So before you begin, you know, a couple things to think about, and this is, even if you're not even putting together a proposal, these are things that you should always have in mind as an artist, as a professional artist, if you want to get out there. First of all, be prepared. You know, have your artist statement, bio, your CV, your resume ready to go. Have professional photos of your artwork or installations. You know, try and, I mean, the biggest thing, and trust me, you know, I struggle with this myself. I'm really good at organization, but sometimes I can't remember what I filed things under. And so, you know, if you can be clear on how you organize your files on your computer, you know, based on your artwork or, you know, your updated resume, you know, however you do that, it's going to make your life so much easier. And then there was something else I was going to say about that. I'm sure it'll probably come up. But is your website up to date? You know, and this is something like I've been updating my website recently and, you know, changing it. This is something to remember, you know, because we have a lot of artists that are, you know, just putting together their websites or, you know, I just did it. But the website is like this living thing. It's going to change all the time. So don't stress about it, but just make sure it's up to date with your most recent work, your updated resume, you know, just the basic information. Because when you submit a proposal anywhere, they're going to look at your website. They're also going to look at your social media. So keep that in mind too. Have an idea for your exhibition. So is it a specific body of work? You know, do you have, you know, a theme or a concept in mind? Have you been working on a project, you know, that you think would be great? Do you have like an older body of work that you're trying to get out there? You know, so think about the body of work. You know, most places, like whether it's a college or an institution or, you know, depending on where you're going to submit to, they're going to have like different programming. You know, if you like, I mean, this is kind of an extreme example, but it's an example I had heard in a workshop once. If your work is fashion oriented and, you know, you use buttons in your work, like for collage or assemblage, there are button museums. So, you know, you can submit a proposal, you know, for an exhibition to the Button Museum. So, you know, keep that in mind. Like you know, what materials do you use in your work? Is your work political? Is it educational? Is it, you know, performance? Keep like those things in mind that your work is about and use that in relation to, you know, where to submit your work to. And we'll talk a little more about that in a second. For a group show, you know, do you have a theme or a concept? And in both cases, what story are you telling? And especially a group show, you know, and I think, oh, okay, I have the example in a second, which I'll talk about. I'm always like jumping ahead of myself. So research, this is one of the most important things that I can recommend. Research. If you have a venue that you like, look at their past exhibitions, see what, you know, what shows they've had in the past, where they group shows. Like for instance, the Brand Library in Glendale, their shows, they don't show solo shows. I don't think, I haven't seen a solo show in a long time. So, you wouldn't submit a proposal for a solo show there. I mean, that is like the easiest thing you can look at. But they take proposals for group shows. And, and the other thing is, they have specific instructions. And so keep an eye on that. I mean, what we're doing is giving you the basic instructions for submitting a proposal. But when you do the research and when you contact a gallery or a museum or institution or wherever it is, a lot of times on their website, it says submission instructions or, instructions to apply or, submit. They will actually have specific instructions. So read those thoroughly and, pay attention to the details and follow the instructions. That goes for everything. I mean, that is probably, and I do it myself. I'm really bad at reading emails too fast, reading instructions too fast, skimming over, I forget something. And so because of my mistakes and my experience with that, I cannot stress enough the importance of following directions clearly. I have heard spaces, museums and galleries and institutions say, if you didn't follow the directions, they won't even look at them. If you don't submit exactly how they want, it's like that's a mark against you and they won't look. So keep that in mind. If you have questions, contact the venue. Don't be afraid to ask questions because then, they know that you're really thinking about it. You're being professional, you're researching. So don't be afraid to do that. And get a floor plan to review the size, the shape, are there alcoves, how tall are the walls? Things like that. And if you need to, depending on if you have hanging work that's really heavy, you may need to ask about ceilings. Are there studs? What is the weight? For Perceive Me, Debbie Corbell did this huge sculpture of me that's about 150 pounds. So in each venue, we need to make sure that there is something that can hang from. And then also, we need to make sure that we have people to hang it. So, there's a lot that goes into it and, a lot of details and, definitely good to think about those. So jumping to an idea or concept for the show. For a solo exhibition, do you have a body of work ready to go? And a lot of artists, and I shouldn't say it that way, some artists do, some artists have a couple of bodies of work, we create work and then it goes in storage, sadly, that's a lot of times how it works. So yes, you already have a body of work. Look at all of your work, whether through your website or what I do is I'll put my work in a folder on my computer. And I did this a couple months ago and I'm like, oh, I saw a connection that wasn't even there. And I'm like, that would make a cool show, but I'm not going to submit that, that's not where I am right now. But sometimes you don't even realize, until you look at all of your work in one place, what the connections are between the work in different ways. So think about, the concepts, look for similar themes or a story that you want to tell. For a body of work for a show, I always recommend 10 to 15 plus works, but it depends on the space. There are for instance, Los Angeles Art Association, there is no way you can hang 15 works in a couple of their galleries because they're small, unless depending on the size of your work. So, keep that in mind. It depends. But for a body of work, having, I think Shelly had let me see 1 second here. I didn't even realize Shelly had got kicked out. So let me see, Shelly, I'm making you a co-host again. There we go. Sorry about that. So let's see. So yeah, think about, bodies of work, is normally 10 to 15 works. Also, an idea is hire someone to curate your exhibition. For a solo exhibition, it's whether you hire an art writer, an art curator, or a critic, or, who also curate, or, another artist, a lot of times having, or, invite them just for a studio visit to, get another set of eyes on the work. you can tell them you're putting together a proposal for an exhibition, and you like want another set of eyes on your work to see if it makes sense. And then once you get talking, you may think like, oh my God, I want to hire them to curate the exhibition. So it does help having, a name behind it. I mean, it's not, it's another like strategy that you can use to get your proposal out there. So for group exhibitions, the number of artists and artworks varies based on the space you're submitting to. So, it definitely depends. You could have 3 artists with, 5 works each, or you could have 15 artists with 1 work each. It will just depend. Keep a folder or list of artists you like or whose work resonates with you and you want to see together. I have a folder on my computer that says artists to watch, and there's probably 400 or 500 artists in there. And I was noticing a theme, and I've been like, I've had this folder for like 5, 6, for many years. And I was noticing a theme, especially early in the pandemic when, what else was I going to do but be on my computer? There were a lot of artists using like household items in their work, like, either for their work, as the subject for their work, or as objects in their work. And so I curated an exhibition, an online exhibition with Shoebox Projects called Homefront. And it was fantastic. I think there's 30 or 40 artists in the show. It was an easier thing to do because it's online, but you can see it on Shoebox Projects just to get an idea, of the theme involved. And I also I created a folder titled Abstract Artists, because I know a lot of abstract artists and I am one. And, so keep that in mind, like we're artists, so we see patterns and things in that way. So, they would make good shows, and it's a great way to support other artists too. I always say generosity begets generosity. When we support others, we get it back in return somehow. We as artists, we have to support each other. This is our community. It's like, right now, like there's a hashtag women helping women or women supporting women or something like that. We have to, it's in any field you're in, really. It's, it's important. So, so where to submit exhibition proposals? I always say start local. Galleries, and that could be, walk around your neighborhood. This is something that I'm telling a lot of people lately, especially, social media can be so, I don't know what the word is. Sometimes it sucks. It can be so divisive, I think is a good word. Sometimes I want to leave and I'm like, I can't, it's my community here. It's my people. It's, it's great for artists, but so it's like, where's the balance? That means getting out, going for a walk in your neighborhood, go for a walk. Like if you go to Ojai, if you walk, you'll see galleries that you may not have known. You'll see, spaces or organizations or, places that you may have had no idea, about. So keep an eye, so get out, start local. Where to submit, also galleries that accept proposals. Most galleries, especially like blue chip galleries and, mid-level galleries, they don't necessarily accept proposals, for shows. They show their artists that are represented. But it depends, if you're including one of their represented artists, it's like, then give it a chance. If it's something that fits with their programming, some galleries have project rooms, so maybe submit a smaller show in a project room. If there's a gallery you like, keep that in mind and keep an eye out for, curated shows in that way. Alternative art spaces also, and that could be collectives, that could be, like places like Self-Help Graphics or Avenue 50 in Highland Park, or, spaces that, that are nonprofit. And I forgot to put that on there, but nonprofit, just keep an open mind, you know, everywhere you go, think, oh, is this a place I could submit a proposal to? Or what would a show here look like? You know, think of the spaces, think of their audiences also. You know, like Avenue 50, they have their own built-in audience, or self-help graphics, the same thing, you know, so keep that in mind. Also, colleges and universities, oh my gosh. Most of them, whether it's a junior college or community college, if they have an art department, they have an art gallery. So, you know, you can, you know, check out the shows that they've had. You know, Pierce, College of the Canyons, Pasadena City College, you know, Coastline Community College, Mesa Art Gallery in San Diego. Gosh, you know, Rio Hondo, you know, I mean, there's Cal State Los Angeles, Cal State Northridge, you know, UCLA, USC. I mean, theirs is a little different, but I mean, they have the Fowler and stuff like that. But, you know, yeah, it's like, and there you go with the research, you know, make a spreadsheet and put, you know, colleges and put, you know, do they have an art gallery? Do they have like a submission process? And, you know, it takes the research. UCLA has Hillel Gallery, which is, you know, for Jewish artists. So, you know, there's a lot of options out there. It's about, you know, keeping like an open mind when it comes to that. Institutions, you know, like I can't think of exactly what it's called, but it's the LGBTQI Center in like Hollywood, or the West Hollywood Library, or, you know, I know artists have shown at the Altadena Library, or, you know, I'm trying to think of what other institutions, but, you know, there's all sorts of like organizations that, you know, have exhibitions. You know, so I mean, now that you're getting this information, hopefully, like, you know, it'll be on your mind if you see a space, you know. And I mean, even, you know, the Venice Family Clinic and their auction, you know, I mean, that's, you know, a little different, but that's huge. So, you know, libraries, like I said, music spaces, office spaces, look at open calls for art. You know, there's a lot of spaces looking for exhibitions that are already conceived. So, you know, whether you know, it's, you go to cafe and you keep an eye out there. We also have a subscription for calls for art grants and residencies. And we keep an eye out for spaces that are looking for solo show submissions. And I know I started with Start Local, but I even just saw one today. It was a gallery. It was like in a state back east. But there's, you know, if you're able to think outside of California, you know, I mean, you know, especially adding solo shows to your resume in other areas, it shows that you're serious, it shows that you're professional, shows that you're, you know, getting out there. So keep that in mind. There's also Facebook groups that you can join that are, you know, calls for art, grants and residencies, open calls. There's some that have 78, 80,000 people in them, 80,000 artists. And, you know, they have some good calls also. So like I said, do the research, make the calls to see if the spaces accept exhibition proposals, start a spreadsheet for documentation. And I put an example of what a potential spreadsheet, or even if you want to do this in a notebook, you know, what it could look like. Put the date that you called, or the date that, you know, whatever that date is to you. Put the art space, the address, the website. You could put their social media. That way you can follow them. If it's a space that you like, you want to follow them on social media. You want to see what they're doing. Put their contact name and email. So if you are reaching out, you have questions, you know, and you email them and you hear back from like their director or, you know, somebody else, be sure to, you know, write down who that is. Do they accept submissions? You know, make notes on that, and then put any other notes that you need. And, you know, there was also something else I was going to say about that, but hopefully it will come back. Let's see. So continuing on with parts of an exhibition proposal. You know, a cover letter or letter of intent. This is just like a short letter or text in the body of your email. If you're submitting a proposal, you know, most likely it will be through email. So, you just like you're applying for a job, you're gonna like write, to whom it may concern. I'm submitting a proposal for exhibitions based on your, whatever it says, based on your, submission guidelines. You can put like, did someone refer you? I saw, I don't know, I saw Samantha Fields exhibition, and, she was my professor at Cal State Northridge. And, I feel the space, would work perfectly for what I do. And that's a really bad cover letter. It would be completely edited, which is something else. You know, when you're doing a proposal, when you're writing anything, whether it is an artist statement, a cover letter, your proposal, your CV, get 2 or 3 sets of eyes to look at it. I mean, trust me, we go back and forth, like between there's 3 of us with Shoebox, we all edit it and we post it and we're like, shit, there's another, there's another mistake. So it's like, get 2 or 3 eyes to edit it, because we all make mistakes, but we want it to be as clear as, as perfect. I mean, I hate to use that word, as we can when submitting a proposal. So, and, I will say we are not perfect. I mean, there were actually like even people submitting, like filling out the form for this proposal workshop, some of the email addresses were wrong. And so like I had to go in, like they were missing letters or had a wrong letter, and we type so fast. It's like, I do it too. And so it's like, it's about slowing down and like being present with what you're doing and having other eyes look at it. So, and like I said, I do it too. So yeah, that's the cover letter or the letter of intent. Again, it's like in the email body. It's like just, when you're sending the proposal. And actually one thing that I didn't put down here, and again, every proposal is going to be different based on who you're submitting to. Some of them, like if they don't have specific guidelines, what you'll want to do is put together like a PDF. So you can put, like we're moving on into the proposal statement narrative part. So you can put, the proposal, and then you'll put your artist statement and then your CV and bio. And then your images, you can do it whether you use Keynote or whether you use PowerPoint or even a Word document, and then save it as a PDF and send it as a PDF to the spaces. So, and depending on if the space, you want to try and gear it specifically to each individual space, but depending on what your proposal is, you may be able to submit the same proposal to several different spaces. So keep that in mind. But for the proposal statement, or narrative, describe the exhibition you're proposing. So you want to be really clear on this. You want to be able to describe the exhibition as if, so they can see it in their mind while they're reading it. That is the thing. You want to make it as visual as possible. Include a clear thesis statement in the beginning of the proposal to show out how it presents a cohesive exhibition. Use simple language, avoiding jargon and buzzwords. Don't worry about art speak, stay away from art speak. Be specific when writing about your work. Rather than describing your practice generally, write about a specific project or artwork that you want to use and make a clear, compelling case for its conclusion. Why is it important to the exhibition as a whole? Clearly describe the exhibition plan. How will viewers experience the work? Consider the scale and the layout of the gallery space too. And this is why, it's great to have a floor plan, or if you can, go to the space and look at it in person. That way you have an idea, and you can even meet like the director, and that way they already have an image of you on their mind. So when you submit the proposal, it's like that much more of an edge to get you in. Why this exhibition is important, not just to you, but to the gallery and the community, whether it's your community, the gallery's community. The Museum of Art and History in Lancaster, they're really, they accept proposals, for their Cedar art space. And they're very community oriented. So it's like, how does your work engage with their community? You know, what are you trying to teach, or what are you trying to do, you know, as with the community? What medium you're working in, the number of pieces, and the size of the work. You know, again, whoever you're submitting this to, you want them to be able to picture, you know, what the exhibition's going to look like. If applicable, mention the time frame you'd like to exhibit, but if at all possible, try to show that you're flexible. Flexibility is going to get you far, you know, trust me. Ask questions. If your proposal hinges on something related to the space, you know, like I said earlier, hanging from the ceiling or building a false floor, send a short email asking if that's possible. Proposals are often rejected because they aren't realistic for the space. So keep that in mind. If the gallery has specific requirements for proposals, again, follow instructions. I can't stress that enough. And, you know, again, you know, that's where the research comes in, because every space that you're looking at, they may even have like a form on their website that you fill out that is the proposal. Some of them are going to have, you know, included in the proposal, you know, the narrative statement, your artist statement, your bio. They're going to have specific things. They're going to have like 10 images. And remember, like, you know, we'll talk about the images in a second. As far as, you know, attention to detail, title the images exactly as they say. You know, I don't know how many times like we request, you know, for shows or whatever, images from people and they're not titled, you know, according to how we want them. So, so your artist statement, you know, this is like I'm sure most everybody here either has an artist statement, knows what an artist statement is writing an artist statement, knows you have to write an artist statement. So an artist statement is an important part of being an artist today. Some spaces may require a general artist statement. So it's good to have. And you can have a general artist statement about your practice. You also want to have, like in your back pocket or even on your website, a statement about each body of work, you know, because your work changes. You know, I have statements about like my Zoom-free selfies that I'm doing, or, you know, my paintings, or my, you know, my cake pieces, or whatever it is, because they're different. So you want to have a statement about each body of work. And then if it's ready to go, that's where I was talking about be prepared. If those statements are ready to go, then, you know, you won't have as much work when you're putting together the proposal. So keep that in mind. Make sure your artist statement fits with the work you're proposing. An artist statement can come in many forms. You know, I'd keep it approximately, that should be 250 words. I'd love to see an artist statement that's 25 words, sorry. But is it good to have multiple, but it is good to have multiple versions with varied word counts. And I have an example in just a second. This is a statement about your work written by you in the first person. Remember that. We get this question all the time. Artist statements are in the first person. Your bio is in the third person. So remember that. Often it's all the viewer has as a representation of the artist's voice. There's no set format, but you should always include the following: an introduction to the main ideas in the work, historical and or cultural influences in relation to the content, process and formal concerns and how they affect the content of the work. And I'll talk about like historical and cultural influences. I don't know how many times I've heard people say, you know, it's important that you see your work in the same like conversation as your historical and cultural influences, you know, especially if you're submitting to a college or university, because that's what they're looking for. So keep that in mind. You know, does, like, for instance, my performance artwork, you know, I am definitely influenced by like Eleanor Anton and oh my gosh, no, of course I'm not going to remember their names, you know, by a lot of the performance artists, you know, documentary performance artists that came before me. And then you also want to have your conclusion, you know, in your artist statement. So start by referring to your journals, sketchbooks, and any other notes you've taken, you know, for info you've gathered about your work. And this is like, we recommend to our artists sit with your work, like actually sit in your studio looking at your work and just take notes, just like stream of consciousness, take notes about what you see in the work, what you think the work is about, what you want the work to be about. Oftentimes like we have these thoughts and we like forget to write them down. And these are all great things for your artist statement, definitely. Make a list of key points in your work, make a list of key influences, in your work or about your work or for your work. Keep images of the work you're writing. Oops, see, there's a typo. You are writing about in front of you. That again, whether you're in the studio, whether you're looking at your work on the computer, wherever it is, that way, like you have it there and you could just, stream of consciousness. Spend some time looking at your work and take notes, again, on the thoughts that you have. Oh yeah, and then a couple more thoughts on artist statements. Some questions to answer when writing your artist statement. What is your work about? How is your work made? Is process important and why? What kind of research do you do? Is it reflected? Oh my gosh, this is another typo. I'm seeing nobody's perfect. We're all human. Is it reflected in your work? Does your work seek to pose questions or to answer questions, or pose questions or to answer questions? And how? What are your historical, cultural, and formal influences? And is there a larger social or political context in your work? And how is this expressed? And these are just some of the questions to think about. Be direct and concise. State what the work does. Use phrases like the work deals with, my ideas come from, my work is informed by, my work is about. Don't talk about what you hope the work does. Don't use phrases like I hope, I'm trying to, I feel, I think. Those are not definitive. You want to use definitive words, and keep it simple, and keep it like, use less words and be as efficient as possible in your statement. Get the most information out there in as fewer words. So keep that in mind. So and you'll be able to, we're not going to read this now. This will be in the PDF that you'll get afterwards. An example of an artist statement, Tim Forkham, he was my professor at Cal State Northridge. This is his basically about 250 word statement. And then he made a shorter statement. So, which is always good to have, whether you're applying for proposals or grants, whatever it is, they have word counts, and I always hated that. It's like some of them, they're 100 word count. And so you want to have a couple of different statements for that reason. So you can go and look at this later on. So the bio is the next important thing that you want in your proposal. Before you dive into the nitty-gritty of writing your artist bio, make sure you have a firm understanding of your audience. This is going to be important whether you apply to, like a nonprofit or a college or a gallery. Will they be more interested in your past exhibitions and awards, or excited about an upcoming residency or project? So keep those things in mind. Your artist biography should be a summary of significant facts about your art career written in the third person. There are different autobiography or bios out there. Some people write a bio as if it's like the story of their life, which is good to have, in your computer, on your file. But a bio, when submitting for something like this, it's basically your condensed resume in paragraph form. And there's an example that I'll show in just a second too. So begin by introducing yourself with your name, medium, and some background information. Just a couple sentences, short and sweet. This can include where you were born, where you work, and when you first became interested in art. Again, a couple of sentences. It's not like paragraphs long about why you're interested in art. Next, discuss any art training or schooling you had and degrees earned. If none, state you're self-taught. Then move on to discuss your exhibitions, awards, and any other professional achievements. You can also mention if you're featured in an important collection or in important collections or prominent art publications, but be sure not to overwhelm the reader with too much self-promotion. Choose the best nuggets, the most professional nuggets, the best ones. Then seg into recent shows or important projects you're working on, such as public art installation, community engagement project, or, you know, a solo show at a, you know, LGBTQI center or something like that. End strong with any upcoming exhibitions, residencies, or projects. And here's an example from Samantha Fields, who is also my professor at CSUN, an amazing artist. If you don't know her, definitely look her up. You know, she talks about where she was born. She received her BFA and MFA, you know, and she teaches at Cal State Los Angeles or Cal State Northridge. You know, she received numerous awards and recognitions, and then she goes on to, you know, put them in like, you know, in order here. Her work has been collected and exhibited at noted public institutions, and her work has been reviewed in. So, you know, this is, I mean, a lot of them are shorter than this, but this is a really good kind of example. So keep an eye out. And that's the thing also, look at other artists' websites. See, especially like, you know, artists, if there's a gallery that you like, research the artists that are showing in the gallery. Look at whether their websites, Google, you know, like, who did I just see? Wendy White at Shulamit Nazarian. Wendy White, you know, artist statement, or Wendy White, you know, bio, or, you know, if she has a website, see what she says. You know, look, get a lot of different examples. None of this is, what's the word? Consistent. I mean, everybody, you know, everybody does do it differently, but this is kind of basic to what I see, like a generalization of, you know, a lot of what I see, you know, out there. So, and then let's see, the CV resume, essentially this is to show off your experience as an artist. You want the bio and the CV resume. One of the reasons for this is a lot of times if you're accepted, they're going to copy and paste that bio in like promotional material. They're not going to share your CV resume. Keep that in mind. Don't ask questions, you know, don't ask why. If they're doing something, if they're requesting something, it's for a reason. So just do it. You know, an artist's resume can include where you went to school and what degrees you received, awards, residencies, exhibition history, and performances. Sometimes an artist's resume can contain bibliographies, you know, which are reviews of the artist's work. You can also include lectures and artist talks. My resume, I have a comprehensive resume that basically is everything I've ever done. It's like 10 pages long. And then, you know, applying for grants lately, they want a 1-page resume. That is the hardest thing, trying to like pare it down. So just like the artist statement, you want a couple different resumes. You want a comprehensive resume. You want something where you know every single thing you've done. I mean, mine has, you know, lectures I've given. You know, I have my work history because I used to teach at, you know, I taught art history. You know, I have like workshops I've given, or, you know, invitations to artist talks, you know, all of that. I have performances that I've done. I have my solo and group shows. I have awards and residencies, and, you know, I mean, it's big. So, you know, but like I said, some places are going to want maybe a 2 or 3 page resume. You're going to have to learn how to pare it down. And, you know, this is, and trust me, this is common. So, and I don't have samples of this because, you know, they're basic. You can Google an artist resume and you'll see they're all kind of pretty much the same. And actually on in the PDF at the end, I do have a list of resources. And at the top is a resource for the College Art Association, which has a great example of how to put an artist resume together. And the College Art Association, if you don't know, they're just a great organization. They have a lot of art history, you know, based on art history and education, but they're also very supportive of artists. So I definitely recommend checking them out.
And I just want to make one point.
Yeah, sure.
When you're thinking about these things and how to pare down your resume, think about the space that you're submitting to, the grant that you're submitting, or the proposal that you're submitting for the exhibition. Like, how does, like, what things do you want to include in your resume that this space will be interested in? So everything from your artist statement to your CV, if you keep thinking with that intention, like that'll help you in the editing process.
Perfect, exactly. Thank you. All right, images. So images are equally as important as everything else in your resume. And this is for your career period. I have juried a lot of shows and curated a lot of shows, and I'm still amazed at the types of images that I get from artists. They're images that you can see reflections in glass. You can see like the light on paintings. You can like the paintings are cropped like that. They're like off-centered in the photo. Um, Especially today in the world that we live in, photos represent your artwork, whether it is on social media, on your website. Of course, we're in the pandemic still, and I want to say we're still in the pandemic because it's not over yet. So people don't necessarily see our work in person. So we have to represent our work as best as we can. And having professional photos, or if there are ways to and one of the links for the resources is how to take photos of your work. Practice, play. If you're doing it yourself, if you can't afford a photographer, which totally get, practice. Take a lot of different photos, play with Photoshop, or a different program if you have it. Even your phone. Play with the settings and compare the picture with the work in front of you. The other thing on top of that is everybody's computer is different. I don't remember. I feel like the other day we were looking at something and the work was different on my computer than it was on somebody else's. And so, and so that is true too. So you want to make the work, as professional as possible, in the best representation that you can. Images should be bright, clear, and photographed on a neutral background. The stronger your images, the stronger the proposal. I can't stress that enough. You can also include images of past exhibitions so the reviewer can get an idea of what your exhibition may look like. And if you've already like curated a solo show, or you've had a solo show, by sharing the photos from that, it'll also show that you can do it. You're not new at this. When we submitted proposals for Perceive Me, we used photos from Cal State Los Angeles, and which was a beautiful space. I actually had like 2 different people take professional photos of it, because I knew I wanted the show to travel, and it worked. And every single space after that, I've had professional photos taken, of the show. So you'll want to resize each image so that they're still full resolution, but aren't too large. So you probably want to have a couple different sizes, but and every institution that you submit to is going to have different requirements for this. If you're not familiar with, with like the PPI, with the pixels, with, any of that, actually Kimberly Brooks is going to be doing a Photoshop class. I think it's like $300 or $400, maybe something like that. I just saw it come through. If you want more information, I can send that to you. But I always recommend resizing each image to 2000 pixels on the longest side, but it depends on what it's used for. Some places will ask for like 1200 pixels or 700, and 300 DPI. So it is different, but that's just kind of an estimate, approximation of what I've seen. If you have a sequence in mind, you'll want to title your work in a way that the reviewer can easily understand. A lot of times they will have a specific way that, to title each slide. But this is kind of a general, like, you have 01, you have your first name, dash, last name, underscore, title of work. Sometimes it's a pain in the butt, and it is a pain in the butt, but a lot of times that's what they request. So follow those directions specifically. I can tell you for call and response, we need it to be perfect. We need it to be like 01, or like 1 Christine Shoemaker, 2 Shelley Silverio, because that puts the work in a certain order. So when these institutions, and like for call and response, this time we have 70 artists, we're getting like hundreds of pieces of work. If they're all, not named properly or not named right, that's a lot more work for us. And, so think about it when sending a proposal. If it's not in order, if it's not, if it's not correct, again, they may not do the work. They may just throw it out. So keep that in mind. Let's see, include an image list with the above information. That is like something that you definitely, that will help them. And it'll include the above information and more. You'll want to include an image list that includes like the medium, and include the full medium. Don't just say mixed media. If your work includes assemblage, or if it includes like my pieces for my Let Me Eat Cake, I would say it includes a baker's rack and like glass cake stands, shredded journals. For my losing weight, I would actually say, because this is part of the work, shredded skinny photos. So it's like, be specific, because that is your work, and that's also going to attract people, to what your work is. And be prepared, again, like I can't stress that enough. So some ancillary materials to think about, when putting together a proposal, whether you send a proposal out in person, or through the mail, the actual physical USPS, or you send it online. Something good to have, a lot of places recommend brochures. And this could be like, and I'll show examples when we're done, of a couple of brochures and postcards. Brochures could be a trifold, or it could be just like opening up a twofold, and it has images of your work. It could have like an artist statement, could have a couple of quotes from press that you've received, with the writers and the publications of that press. May have your resume on the back, like a short, resume. Also a postcard, and it's an evergreen postcard. An evergreen postcard is a general postcard that normally I say, has an image on one side with no text. It's like your art on one side. The other side, it has like your statement, your artist statement, or a statement about the work, your website, your social media, and contact information. And that's something just like a business card you carry around with you all the time. And yes, we are in a digital age, but a lot of people aren't. I have like a stack of business cards in my little thing here that I go through and I add to my mailing list, of where I've exchanged business cards. So wherever you go, and these are things, if you send a proposal, a physical proposal to somebody, which is possible, include those in the packet. There's also what's called a professional deck. And this is a PDF that's made from like Keynote or PowerPoint. And so, and I can show a couple of examples when we're done also. This is what some people have done, like for instance, Los Angeles Art Association, and other places too, but I've seen, a couple of artists do it there. When you're submitting for a solo show, if you have the floor plan of the space, you can submit, or you can create like a 3D version of it made from foam core. You make it to the scale, the specification. And then like, for instance, Teal Hathaway, she's an artist here at the brewery. She did an installation at Los Angeles Art Association a few years ago, and part of it was hanging from the ceiling. So she created like a foam core 3D model of the gallery. She had like these sticks hanging from across the top with the pieces hanging. And she took that into the gallery, and, with her proposal, she got the show, because people could visualize what it looks like. This also a virtual model of the space, especially because of the pandemic. Artists are doing so much with virtual spaces, and there's like architectural programs, there's like different 3D modeling programs that you could do. So that also gives an idea of what the show would look like. And these are all like strategies that kind of push you a little bit ahead, when submitting proposals. So let's see. So a couple of important notes. Don't be afraid to make calls, ask questions, send emails. This is a great way to introduce yourself before you send the proposal, and they'll see how interested you are in the space. Also, it helps if you have been there in person. Keep that in mind too. Support, support begets support. Generosity begets generosity. When you support a space, it will be returned somehow. I've been to Cal State Los Angeles before. I know Mika Cho, who runs it. I've been to I've taken photos of the shows. I've posted them on social media. We've gone to exhibitions together. So it was, I don't want to say easier for me to submit to the gallery. I mean, I had a good proposal, but it was, it's also who that's why cultivating those relationships is so important. So again, supporting the gallery owners as well as the gallery itself, or the gallery, the directors, the curators, whoever it is that runs the space, as well as the gallery itself. Follow them on social media, like their posts, all of that helps. Again, read all instructions carefully and follow directions. I put it in here again because that is one of the most important things you could do. Every space is different and may have different requirements, so keep that in mind. There's no uniform way to write a proposal. These are the basic elements that you'll need, what I have here. Follow up. After sending your proposal, send an email 2 to 3 weeks later to make sure they received it. And that's, it's no problem to do that. Don't even stress over it. Just send an email saying, I just wanted to follow up. I sent a proposal, on so-and-so date. I want to make sure you received it and see if you have any questions. As simple as that. And, hopefully they'll get back to you. Also, oftentimes what happens is they put your proposal on file. Some spaces, and actually this is common, and I put this at the bottom, some spaces have their schedules planned out 2, 3, 4 years in advance. So you have to remember that. Everything we're doing now is for the long game. We live in like this instantaneous society where everything happens like, very fast, but our art careers don't. I hate to say that. Our art careers don't. But we can do things to help move it along faster, like putting together proposals. So everything you do is a stepping stone. Everything you do is the next step to get you to different places. I was invited, I'm in Bermuda's projects right now. The show closes in a couple of days. And, they've been following me for years and I didn't really know on social media, and they invited me to the show, and I've been in the gallery and supported them, and you never know how that will happen, by sending out a proposal. Also they have cancellations. That is the thing too. Don't stress over if they're, even if they say, our schedule is planned out for 2, 3, 4 years, something always happens and there's cancellations. If you have a show that is ready to go, if you're organized, if you can take on as much of the work as possible, they will love you and invite you. I curated the show at Launch LA a few years ago called Nature of Reality. And I submitted the proposal to James at Launch. First of all, it was in September, which is his busiest month because he also runs La Brea Tar Pits, or the, what's that called? Tar Fest. And so we had heard that, is that a puppy somewhere? We heard that, if I was, talking to somebody and it's like, okay, if I could submit a proposal to him, and take some of that stress off of his plate, I would curate the show, we'd install it, I'd take care of most everything. I submitted the proposal, talked to him, just like that. He accepted it and he was grateful. So then I think it was the next year, we were working with an artist and I suggested to her that she do the same thing. She did, and she got a 2-person show. She suggested it. She sent a proposal in with the other artist. So, things like that happen, keep that in mind. You never, kind of what I was getting to before that though, is they have cancellations. So submit the proposal. You never know if you have a show ready to go, if you're easy to work with. That is also one of my other things. I have like this kind of manifesto. If you're easy to work with, then, then even better. So just keep that in mind. I always say patience and perseverance, yeah, that is like one of the things, patience and perseverance. So this is kind of, I just wanted to throw this in there. Once you get an exhibition, these are some questions to ask. Some things that we don't think about until afterwards. It's like, oh no, I got this, I got this exhibition, now what? So questions to ask the gallery, questions to ask yourself. What is the process if a work is purchased during the exhibition? How does that work? Is there a commission? What kind of commission do they receive off each sale? Set that up ahead of time. I mean, you want to set that up ahead of time. Is there a stipend? A lot of times, if you submit a proposal for like a museum or a gallery, or like Mesa College Art Gallery, where Perceive Me is going, they have $1,000 travel stipend, or, travel stipend for transporting the art. Some places will have a stipend, and you can negotiate. Don't be afraid to negotiate. Is there a contract? Most places I've signed a contract for Perceive Me. And is there insurance? And what does that look like? We're curating a show at Blue Roof Studios coming up, and they don't have insurance. So we had to let the artist know. Can they give you a layout of the gallery? Again, so you can mock up your installation. Will you be installing yourself, or will someone else install your work? How long will the exhibition be on display? These are important things to know. And when do you pick up the work or deinstall? Let me see. Oh, there we go. What nights do they typically hold opening and or closing receptions? What nights are you expected to attend? Again, if you have a solo show, especially, you should expect it to attend, whenever they need you. I mean, whatever is going on with that. Putting together a solo show is a lot of work in that way. You need to be present. Will they provide wall vinyl, marketing material, and hardware, or will you? Are there any promotional restrictions or guidelines that you need to abide by? For instance, like sometimes we do PR for our artists, and also the gallery does if they have a solo show. So we want to make sure we don't step on anybody's toes. And so we coordinate. What are the gallery hours, and who should guest contact to schedule a walkthrough? What's the turnaround time between exhibitions? If there's a week, it's like, okay, you need to plan it. Make sure like you deinstall the show. Sometimes you may need to like patch and paint the walls, so that's going to be things to think about. Los Angeles Art Association, when I had a solo show in 2012, I painted the gallery walls like dark brown and dark tan. We had to, paint them back to white to the way they were. There were like 3 coats of primer and like 2 coats of paint. It was crazy. And it was a lot of work, and it sucked. And I may never do that again. I don't know, but things to think about. How many days do you have to install and deinstall your show? And how can you help the gallery? That is probably the most important question. Again, support begets support. Throughout the process, and of course, part of that's covered up, throughout the process, always be professional, courteous, and I can't read the rest of that, but you can see it. So, all right, so almost done here. So here's some resources. Again, when I send you the PDF, these are going to be clickable links that you can, that you'll be able to open. The first one, the College Art, there's standards and guidelines for an artist's resume. So keep that in mind. There's also some references on being a curator. There's The Guardian wrote, Hans Ulrich Obrist wrote a great thing on being an art curator. There's a curatorial toolkit, how to photograph your art, writing an artist statement, writing artist resumes, artist gallery dealer. There's a couple things on contracts. Also, if you're not, and insurance also, that is a big question that we get. And also, if you're not familiar with Artwork Archive for organizing your work, highly, highly, highly recommend checking them out. I use a spreadsheet, and eventually I'm going to move to Artwork Archive just because of how valuable they are, and I hear other artists talking about, how great they are all the time. So check them out. So again, if you are coming in late, put your information in chat, your website, social media info, and Medium into the chat on Zoom. Be sure to follow each other on social media. It's about creating community. We're all artists. We're all trying to get out there and help each other. And, if you find like, you know, if there's somebody, you know, and, you know, I'm going to unshare the screen in just a minute, reach out and see if you want to be like an accountability buddy. You know, pair up to write a proposal, to put a proposal together. That way you can each edit each other's proposals. I highly recommend, like, you know, partners, like mentors, mentees. We have our Shoebox Peer Mentorship with that. For that, it's a free program. We pair you up with artists. We will be sending you a PDF of the presentation, this PowerPoint, as well as a link to the recording that's active for 10 days only after the workshop. And then we offer 1-hour Zoom consultations. You know, if you'd like to go over a proposal that you've prepared, you know, we can definitely help you with that. And there's some of our info, you know, on the, of like how to follow us too. So I'm going to stop sharing.
And Christine, I'm just
Yes.
gonna, as we came to the end, there were a few questions in the chat that I made notes of.
Awesome. I'm listening. Go ahead.
First, Palmer asked about the CV and how far back we should include shows. She mentioned like if you were in a good show 10 years ago. My thought originally was kind of, if it supports the proposal that you're putting together, of course, include it, but don't hang your hat on things that you did 10 years ago. But I kind of wanted to bring it up and see if we wanted to have a little bit more discussion on that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Definitely. You know, especially if it's a museum, if it's, you know, if it's a professional show, I would include it on the resume for sure.
And then another one was about past exhibition photos. Rebecca was asking if you had any examples of like some good exhibition photos that you've used before. I don't know if you have that to pull up right away, or maybe we could include it when we send it.
You know, if you want to put a link to my website,
Okay.
Underneath Perceive Me, I have installation photos of Perceive Me. So, so you can get an idea. I mean, anytime, or even if you go to Art and Cake, you know, a lot of our reviews, we get photos from the galleries that are installation photos of exhibitions. So that way, and an installation photo, you know, of an exhibition includes like the space, includes how the work looks in the space. And, you know, think about angles, think about, you know, like conversations that the work has with each other. You know, we're artists, so we see that. And that's also how you curate shows. You know, we look for those conversations, whether it's with like our own work, or whether it is with like, you know, if we are putting together a group exhibition. It's, you know, sometimes like, sometimes it's like, oh, you know, I love, like, I don't even realize until the work gets there and I look at it and I'm like, I love this conversation, you know, that's going on. And then, yeah, just like play with angles of photographs, because that's what you're trying to get out there and, you know, represent, is how the work looks in the space. Does that make sense?
And then Brenda asked about budgets, that some proposals require budgets, and if you had any words on that.
Good question. We need to add that, Shelley.
I made the note.
Yes, thank you. This is the first time we've done this. So it's like, you know, thank you. That's a great question. Budgets, yes, are very, very important. The budget, you should, I mean, again, it depends on if they give you a stipend or not. And sometimes like a stipend, like budgets are more important for grants. But the space, if they have money, if they have like a travel budget or, you know, an installation budget, you include everything. Like, you know, it's important to keep track of those numbers, you know, keep track of gas, keep track of renting a van, keep track of, you know, of like if you hire somebody to install, or keep track of like any installation materials, like, you know, tape for packing, or, you know, it also may include, you know, if you need to buy a projector for, you know, a video or a monitor, or, you know, I mean, there is a lot that comes into, and, you know, that surrounds the budget, but most of the time, like the space will tell you they have like $1,000 travel stipend, and you don't have to submit a budget or anything like that. That's the norm. A budget is important, like I said, when applying for grants. because they want to know what you're, using the grant money for, and like what, especially if it's something specific. Like my friend applied for, I don't remember, one of the bigger ones recently. We were talking about it and she's like, yeah, I needed to add, like, she wants to do a video installation with like 3 projectors. So she added, she researched and found the cost of those 3 projectors and, had to put that in there. So I hope that helps answer the question.
We have brochures. Like, what would you include in a brochure?
Yes, good question. And this is culled down, but this is like, I save brochures and postcards and, all sorts of stuff that I think are great material. So let me see, I'll show you. I'll start with this one because she's here. Randy's. This is, so Randy's it's a 4-fold here. And it's, it's really cool. And actually, let me go ahead and spotlight so you can see. So this is the inside, which is great. It has the image and it has, like, a couple of quotes from press on the on the inside. Of course, now my voice is going to be going out. On the outside, she has an image with the title. She has, a short CV and resume, and then like a quote from her, her website and email. She showed at Los Angeles Art Association, so information is there. And then you can see it folds up like that, and it fits in a regular envelope, which is really nice. So another one.
Let me just, can I
Oh,
share
yeah.
that for just anyone who wants to know, I did that on UPrinting. I designed it on their website. I just uploaded my stuff. So you can do it too. Just wanted to share that.
And Shelley also who was our other artist that just designed one? Was it Palmer? Actually, Palmer, Palmer is designing one. What website are you designing it on, Palmer?
Well, I'm actually doing it myself on Photoshop. I don't know. I was just gonna go to a print shop and see if I could get it to look how I wanted it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I have in the past used Vistaprint for stuff. They have good brochures. Sizes
and I feel like Moo. I think you can also they
may have great business cards, but I don't know, probably.
Yeah. Thank you. This is Ella Viva Diamond. It's like a 2-fold, an image with her name.
Can I just ask something?
Yeah.
I didn't hear what Randy said. What did she use? Which program was it again, Randy? The first one you showed.
UPrinting.
Do you want to put it in chat?
I'm going to put it in the
yes.
chat. I'm going for the link, and I designed more there since, and you can do many different. I'll just put it in there. You can always reach out to me.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, here's Aviva's. So it has, images on the inside, which, remember, you want to share your images. I mean, that is what you're presenting. You're presenting yourself as an artist. So this is great. And then she has like statement on the back. This was for a show, but she has her phone number, email and website. And then she has like the title information on the bottom. So this is, here's a couple of really good trifolds. Stevie Love. She actually, Tony Pinto, graphic designer, designed this. She printed it out at Staples. So, that's good to know. And I don't think it was very expensive because she could print out as many as she needed. So, you could see the work clearly. She has the title information. On this side, she has like an excerpt from Peter Frank, little bio about herself. On the back, she has her CV, her resume, and then all of her contact information, and then the cover. And then also Chen Hung Chen did one. She has like a quote from Jeannie Davis, a writer, and there's a couple of other quotes inside with really good images of her work. The brochures, you can send them, with your portfolios if you want to send them separately to museums, institutions, galleries. Some of these artists will have them at their open studios, that people can take, or if somebody's interested in their work, they send them. a couple people, I know like Danny Dodge did one, and also, who was it? A couple of other people did a brochure. Danny did a brochure, sent it to MOA. It was on Robert Benitez's desk. And Danny saw Robert. This was a few years ago. Danny ran into Robert at Los Angeles Art Association at one of their art openings. And they were talking, and he's like, you know, I've had your brochure sitting on my desk. Let's do something. You know, it was just like that. It was, you know, so it's another tool, you know, in the toolbox. So does that help with brochures? Let's,
Can I ask you a question about brochures?
yeah.
So is it kind of like a cold call? You know,
Yeah,
you
kind
send
of.
it at random, even if you're not necessarily promoting a specific event or.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And, you know, you have to, you know, be aware that it could be thrown away. You know, I mean, that is a possibility if your work doesn't fit with them. You know, but take the chance because you never know. I know like Andy at MOA, they have a file that they put them in, and she'll, if they're putting together a show, she goes through those, you know, and pulls out artists that she thinks is going to fit in the show. So I'm sure there's other places that do that too, you know, especially if it's like the right work, if it's the right theme, you know, whatever it is. So definitely.
And you can make more than one for different
oh,
bodies of work,
Yes.
which is what I struggle with. I spoke to Andy about trying to make one, and I was like, I don't think that's working for me. So just to, this is, I'm only adding in because this is really encouraging. This is just what I needed. So I'm so glad you're doing this, Christy.
Oh, good. You're welcome. I saw Ellen has her hand up. I know, Shelley, you had more questions.
Well, there are a couple more, but I was just gonna say in response to Randy, that is a good point to make. Because that also allows you to submit different brochures to different spaces. So if you have different bodies of work that one might fit one space, but your other body of work wouldn't, you know, you can use that as a strategy as well.
So my question is, as far as the brochures go, can you have a brochure if you have several different bodies of work that you kind of do an overall, or and also then you can do the individual? Is that acceptable?
Totally, totally. Honestly, we're artists. We could do whatever we want. So, you know, but no, totally, definitely. You know, make it up, make it unique. You know, it's I think I have, oh, actually, this is kind of cool. I kept it. I love, wait, which one is this one? This is, well, this was kind of an ad from, I think it was a gallery we worked with. This is like a paper, you know, it's like, this was part of like a thing from, where was it? Hazard Gallery. Do you remember that, Shelley?
Yeah.
That was like, they changed. They're now, I think they're now as is gallery actually. But this one, if you guys know, Meg Madison, this one, I got this was 2015. This is like her, it's like a newspaper. Like, I mean, you know, be creative. I mean, this one, I just love this. It's like, you know, and then you open it up and I mean, look at that. Of course, it lends to the medium, which is cyanotypes. But yeah, I mean, I've favored this because I loved what she did with that. And so be creative that way, you know? Yeah. Yep.
So we also had a question about how many times you can show the same show. And I guess that's kind of just like how often you would want to submit that proposal.
Good question. So like Perceive Me will be showing 5 or 6 times, but it is in different, like kind of different parts of the city. Lancaster, Camarillo, Los Angeles, San Diego, Orange County. So, I mean, you wouldn't want to submit a show, like a proposal for a show like at the Brand and then Cal State LA. You know, like I wouldn't submit the Perceive Me for the Brand because it's too close. You know, it's, yeah. So, but you can definitely, you know, send like a proposal out for the same show to many places. Try to, you know, you want different audiences. So that's the thing. So try and like, you know, stretch yourself out, you know, across the states, across, you know, across different areas. We tried to get it up in Northern California and it wasn't accepted. I don't know if it's because, well, part of that's they're a little conservative, who knows? You have to think of that too. You know, I mean, Perceive Me is definitely not going to be for some audiences. So you know, something to consider. But yeah, and then, you know, some people want me to want it to travel even farther, but I'm not sure. You know, you have to think about that too. It's a lot of work, you know, traveling a show, and it's like, you know, it's a lot of work. So I'll just say that. So you have to really think about, you know, how often, where you want it to go, what it's going to do, you know, stuff like that, and why. You know, why is a good question to ask.
No,
So.
we have Eva is asking about group exhibitions. Does the artist contacting other artists become the director of the exhibition, the main point person, or is it best to let all artists have input? So I think we're kind of talking about curation versus
Yes.
organization, right?
Good question. Either or, whatever you want to make it. You know, if you are the curator, if you are organizing it and want to be the curator, then you're the curator. If you want to make it like a group thing, say that up front. That's the thing, is say it up front. Be clear up front. You know, that, you know, I'm putting together an exhibition and I'd love everybody to be involved. Or, you know, I'm curating an exhibition and I'd like to invite you to participate. So you could do both. You could, or either or. Definitely.
It also kind of depends on how many people you want to include. And
Yeah.
so like if I'm doing a show with you, our input is going to be, you know, like we can work that way. If I'm trying to bring in 50 artists, somebody has to be like the leader.
And I will say, you know, I mean, I love artists, of course, but working with a lot of artists is like herding cats. You know, I mean, we all know it. Just be aware of it. You know, I'm aware of it. So it's like, I'm aware so I could deal with it, but it's true. You know, it's like, that's why I have tried to be as organized as possible with Perceive Me, because we have, you know, 58 artists now. And so it's a lot, you know, and so that's why I pay for storage, you know, for the work in between shows. So I don't have to worry about working with 58 artists and having the work delivered and stuff. So keep that in mind. You know, that's why as an artist, to be as easy as, you know, be easy to work with and follow directions. I can't say that enough.
And then Dana asked a good question. How many pages long or attachments for an email proposal without inundating them? And I think this is something we should add, is like, we usually do like a Dropbox link, right? Or to another folder.
Yeah, you know, and actually that's a really good question and a really good point. You know, I think I had said to, you know, to do a PDF. If you can do a PDF and put it in a Dropbox folder, WeTransfer or Google Drive, that's better, because a PDF does not, you know, fill up the inbox. You know, we get that all the time. Like when you're sending out a press release, don't send attachments because they fill up inboxes. But as far as pages, you know, it'll depend. If you're, you know, if you have like, you know, the proposal, the CV, the bio, your artist statement, and then like, you know, 10 images, it could be, you know, or about 10 images, could be like 15 to 20 pages. But as long as it's clean and, you know, organized and easy to follow, I think that's okay. You don't want to send them 100-page proposal, you know, but like 15 to 20 pages, I think is good. Yeah, Dana, you're muted.
Sorry, thank you. Just to follow up on that. So can you, without doing the link, just send 5 attachments, let's say, a PDF of your work and the written proposal, and how much goes into, would you recommend goes into the actual body? How long can the body be versus the, what have you found works?
Yeah, I don't recommend sending images as attachments. Again, because it fills up their inbox, like it fills up the space, but also, you know, most likely they'll have to like download it, or, you know, it'll be in their email. They won't there's a lot of like moving parts in that. If you have one PDF, you know, that has like that you create through PowerPoint or Keynote, like you can use those, you can use a Word doc, you know, create the proposal and then save it as a PDF. You could do that in all of those, you know, and you have one PDF. Again, you want to keep it as simple as possible. You know, does that make sense? Does that help? Okay, cool.
Susan is also talking about, can anyone curate a show, or do they need a history and credentials and some reason for the gallery to trust you?
Good question. Anybody can curate a show. I mean, you know, if you have a vision, curate a show. I mean, that's where artists, we have vision, so curate a show. It'll depend on the space, whether you need credentials or not. You know, some spaces will give you a chance if you put together a professional proposal. You know, if you sell it to them, you know, basically, you know, you're trying to sell it. So, you know, and you know, I recommend staging, like if it's a solo show, I recommend staging it. You know, or like we've recommended this to artists when a couple of our artists wanted to do like either video installations or like set up, you know, a bigger installation somewhere. Find a space, whether you have to rent it or, you know, or if a friend has a space, or, you know, set up a space and make it look professional. So, you know, so they can, and like, all you have to do is take 1 or 2 pictures. You don't need a lot if you're staging it, you know, send that as an example that you know how to install a show and what it would look like that way. But yeah, I mean, it'll depend on the space, you know, whether they trust you or not, or, and again, a lot of it is who you know. So I recommend trying to, you know, again, cultivating relationships with galleries, institutions, and stuff like that. Shelley, I saw you going to say something.
It's basically what you said, but I just wanted to reiterate that like your proposal is proving to them that you can put this show on. So that's what you want to think about with your images, or if you create a mock-up of the space, or if you use their, I always forget the word for this, their mock-up of their space, you know, you want to like, yeah, the floor plan, there we go. If you use their floor plan, you want to show them that you've thought about putting your show in their space, and that's how you prove it to them.
Yeah.
It's my 2 cents.
Whatever.
I think we got through all the questions. You guys can, did I miss anybody's?
Yeah, please feel free to unmute if you have other questions that you want to.
And then if we don't, I just wanted to kind of go over how to save the chat. I did put it in the chat, but we got it asked a couple times, so I want to make sure everybody knows there's 3 dots. Like if you have the chat open, there's the little smiley face, and then there's 3 dots next to it. And if you click that at the top, it should say save chat.
And I just saved it also. So, because I know there's a lot of comments and stuff in there that I want to read, but I'll also send the chat when I send the PDF and the video link. So Dana, are you're muted?
Harmony, when you save the chat, where does it go to in computer land?
It's saved in a folder titled Zoom that's normally on mine, it's in my documents folder.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. I hope, you know, it was our first one. So I know we took a lot, you know, from it, and to improve for our next one in a couple months. But I hope, you know, I hope it helped. Brenda.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the 3 dots when I have the chat open.
On your phone, unfortunately, it doesn't work on your phone.
Okay.
Or
All right,
tablet.
but you said you're sending it, right?
Yeah, I'm saving it. So
Terrific.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you. This has been fabulous. It's funny, in my expectation, I mean, I was kind of one of the last ones to go ahead and do it because I've got a lot of stuff going on. But I sort of envisioned there were going to be all these young people, and I'm going to be this dinosaur who should know more, because I'm still back in the, you know, remembering when we sent slides out. And I was really, I felt good about seeing compatriots that, you know, yeah, you get it.
Yay. Oh, good. Palmer.
Hi, I was just wondering if there was any way that you guys could email, I don't know if other people want this too, but to email like the PDF you were talking about of all the images and CV and resume, like if there was an example one that you could email us or something, just so we could like see what it looks like all together, like in one PDF, because I just am not sure how you would organize it. Like, I don't know if
Yeah.
you have one that's like a good example or something.
You know, I don't have one like that available. But if it's something I was going to put together, because Perceive Me, I did a bit informally. I did like, I knew the people. And so it was a little easier that way. And so, you know, yeah. But so I don't, but I've thought about putting, and actually we should ask Emily. I thought about putting one together just for this and I just didn't have time. But
Okay.
but actually what I can do is show you really fast an example of a deck, which is you know, which is something similar. Let me see, let me find it here in my folder. And while I'm looking, if anybody has any other questions or anything. Let's see, where is it? I just retitled stuff and I can never remember where I put them. No, it's not there. Where did I put those? And of course, they're not.
Did you put one up? I can't tell.
No, not yet. I'm
Oh.
still trying to find them in my.
I think Dana shared one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just put up the PDF that I made for the show submission that I'm
Thank you.
writing a proposal for. It's just the PDF of the work. Christine, do you think it would be wise to add to the PDF? I think you might have said this, but I just want to clarify, to add to the PDF a page that is the art list info and the statement in the PDF, or keep that just the images?
If you do like an art list, I would actually do the information under the image. So you
Well, I
don't
have
need
that.
a separate, yeah.
But then it's a separate art list?
In that case, no. If it's, you know, in that case, if it's a PDF like that, no, you don't need a separate art list. It depends on what they're asking for.
But like, so for the sake of making it easier for the person who's reading the proposal, would you recommend that you keep your description of what you have for the show separate from the PDF of the images? Like in my
No.
case, I have QR codes and I have a video and I have a soundtrack and all this stuff that's part of the show.
Yeah, I would make it one PDF. I would, you know, kind of like I'll show you in the deck that I'm including, but I would make it one. That way they don't have to search for anything and,
Yeah.
you know, start out. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'll show
yeah.
you. Let me see.
Okay, just add pages of description. Good, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. So let's see. These are not proposals, but these are good examples of what a deck looks like a professional deck. And of course, it's taken a little slower, or a little time to open up. I'm not sure why. Come on. Let me try another one. There we go. So Karen Hockman Brown put this together. And she has her, you know, an image of her computer because a lot of her work's on the computer. Her bio, you know, she has an image, like she did this work and it showed in Metro on the buses and subways. And then she has this work, and also her work is like, you know, she does digital manipulation from photographs. So she has like a little photo there. So she has, you know, a lot of images of her work. And then an installation, like this is one installation shot from her solo show that she had with video. Let's see. And then, I don't know why there's one missing. At the end, she put her artist statement.
Right.
And then some other notes.
When you talk about the stack, excuse me for interrupting, what program is this in? I mean, you just put it like in Word and then make a stack, or I don't.
No, it's a deck.
It's a
It's
deck?
a deck, yeah. And she did this, I think, in Keynote, but
Oh.
you can also do it in PowerPoint. You know,
Oh,
you can make
okay.
each slide in PowerPoint, and there's a way to save it as a PDF. So, and PowerPoint, I think, is probably the easiest. You can also do it in a Word doc. And, you know, but it may not look as refined and, you know, with font and stuff like that.
And
This
Google
is-
Drive has Google Slides, right?
Yes,
Which is-
Google Slides. Yes, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, here's Sharon Kagan. You know, and she actually has like a table of contents, and she has, you know, project overview. So she has, you know, she has quotes, an essay, invitation to participate, her artist bio and resume. This is a really good one for a proposal.
When do you use a deck?
I mean, this, you know, it's almost like if somebody contacts you about your work, or if you're, you know, contacting somebody, you know, if you meet somebody, or it's almost like handing out a business card or a brochure, but it's through email. You know, it's good to have, you know, I don't know, there's various instances where you could use it. You can use this to almost send as a cold call, you know, through email to galleries, to, you know, institutions. I always recommend, you know, using whatever tools are available. Don't just use one. You need to use, like, you know, more than one, because there's going to be different audiences. There's going to be different people that, you know, are going to like this over getting one in physically. There's going to be people that like the physical brochure versus this. So it's like, I always recommend, you know, yeah, using different, you know, different things. So
The spaghetti approach.
yes, exactly. Exactly.
It sticks.
So yeah, and again, be creative, you know, like these decks are, you know, be creative with like the images and the, you know, how you share it. And, you know, there's her CV, you know, pictures of her with the work in different, you know, different configurations. And yeah. Yeah, anything else? Any other questions? Or, oh, Palmer, did you have another question, or was your hand just, okay.
No, thanks.
You're welcome. All right, let's see. I see thank yous. You're very welcome. I mean, I hope that it helped, that you got a lot from it. And
I have a question, just one
oh
more.
yeah,
quick question.
yeah.
I'm just thinking for video artists, I mean, they would just take like a clip from, they can't show a video in that PDF. So they would just show slides or something from the, I don't know how that would work for video artists.
If you wanted to share a couple of like still images, and then you can share links, like if you put it on YouTube, you know, share a link. Or if you don't want it to be public, you can make it private with like password protected and put the password in the PDF. You can also, you know, in that case, like put it in the body of the email, because then it will show up right away. Put the link in the body of the email, you know. But yeah, video is, you know, in a lot of the digital work, you know, like that can get, you know, you kind of have to figure that out, you know, based on what you do. Cool. Any other questions or anything? I know it's a lot of information to get through, and it'll be a lot to get through when we send the email to you too.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I have put together a proposal for a project that I've been working on for the past couple of years. I have 5 drawings and 1 installation. So I don't have 10 to 15 images. I have less than that. What would you recommend in that case?
How big are the drawings?
The drawings are about 20 by 30.
Okay.
And the drawing installation, it's panels of drawings that are 22 inches wide, and they're like rolls of paper that go all the way to the floor. So about between 4 feet and 5 to 6 feet.
Okay. And how many of those do you have?
I have about 14 or 15.
Oh, okay, you have enough work. I mean, that's, you know, every project is going to be different, but you know, the installation alone, you know, whether you take separate images of the work or, you know, or, and share, you know, a couple different photos of the, you know, of different parts of the installation up. But if it's for you, if it's a cohesive body, if you think like those drawings and that installation make up a show, then, you know, that works great. You just have to consider the space that you submit to, because for instance, that won't fit in Cal State LA. It's a huge gallery. So you just have to consider the spaces that you submit to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Awesome. Any other last minute questions before we all say goodbye? Well, all right. Let me save the chat again before I forget. And yeah, I'll be sending this afternoon. I will send you, like I said, the PDF, the video link if you want to rewatch it. I mean, really, how many of you are going to rewatch it? I mean, trust me. Hey, okay. Oh, awesome. Yay. And the chat also. And yeah, and like I said, we do, you know, 1 hour consultations. So feel free to reach out if you have a proposal that you want to, you know, talk to us about. It's Shelley and I. And you know, or when you are ready for that, we're more than happy to, you know, look at it through consultations. And yeah, it was so great to see everybody. And we'll be having, you know, more of these workshops probably like once a month. So keep an eye out. And yeah.
Christine, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Early in the chat, because I was thinking I would rewatch it. Maybe I can just ask you. You had talked about venues and you said that there was one that was very community minded and had a theater space. It was maybe a college around here. Do you remember which one that was?
Was that me or was that in chat?
No, it was, you were talking, you said they had a theater space where they would show stuff. No? I'll go back and watch this
You know
thing.
what? I missed it when you were saying it, but now that she's describing it, it's on the tip of my tongue. But you might have to go back and watch it because it's probably not going to come.
I think it was Lancaster that she was referring to.
Was it?
I don't know for sure. Lancaster, the one, the museum Lancaster, no.
Cedar?
It was MOA.
MOA. I mean,
MOA
okay.
Cedar? I mean, they don't really have a theater there, but
Oh, okay. But you said
yeah.
very community oriented is what I remember.
Yeah, which could be MOA. You know, the other one, like check out ArtShare LA. I don't know if they accept proposals. They have a new curator, Baha. I mean, Dana, you know Baha. She's curating at ArtShare LA. Yeah. And so so check out, I mean, they have theater space too. It's that if that's something you're looking for. You know, something. Oh, okay. Just like
just wondering. Yeah.
Okay. But also on our call for art list, there's a section that have some museum spaces listed. I also, when we come across spaces that are open to accepting proposals, we include that.
Where is that? I'm sorry.
In our call for art list that you can sign up for, and it comes every 2 weeks.
I'll send a link for that too, if you're interested. Yeah.
And that kind of comes up like, so like when those come up, I include them on the list.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, so good to see everybody. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and get some rest and a little peace before you dive into everything else. All righty. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.